Welcome to FoxTales Movie Club. I'm Sebastian Fox.
And I'm Tony Sherman. Each video we take a chosen movie and lead a discussion on our thoughts and opinions.
We will be getting into the character, plot, and technical achievements with no regard for spoilers.
So if you haven't watched this movie and don't want to hear said spoilers, you have been warned.
Also stick around to the end to hear the topic for the next video.
Today's movie is North by Northwest.
North by Northwest is a movie that came out in 1959, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, composed by Bernard Herrmann, starring Cary Grant, Eva Marie Saint, James Mason, and Martin Landau.
So this is my first Hitchcock movie that I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think it's my second. I've only ever seen The Birds.
Okay. So I wasn't sure what to expect, but I was expecting a lot, kind of thing, okay, I've heard a lot about this guy, Hitchcock, and was like, okay, what do I want to expect? What do I want to see here? And I was kind of caught off guard with the very opening credits. I was like, if the rest of the movie is like this is going to be really cool.
Yeah.
Because those opening credits were quite fascinating to watch.
Yeah, I don't even know how they would have done it back then, because they had the lines line up perfectly with the window and then had it crossfade.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems like it would have been a lot of work to.
Yeah.
Because you would have had to do all that by hand rather than digitally.
Right. Yeah, but it was just perfectly set up that okay, so we have this graphic, this geometry that we're seeing. And then when it fades to that building, you're kind of like, okay, so now we know where we're at. We kind of have an idea of what we're going to be seeing. And then even like the crowds of people milling about, I was thinking like, oh my goodness, there's so many people. Do they just like go to just go throughout New York and just place a camera down? It's like, all right, we're just going to just stand here and just film people walk around. It was like, you got a feeling of a lot of movement and a lot of just stuff going on, a lot of bustling.
Yeah, and then it ends with Hitchcock's cameo.
Yes, which I guess maybe he was like the first one to kind of do this kind of thing where he cameos throughout practically all of his movies.
Yeah.
I think I looked up like 38 or 39 of his movies he cameos in. So I was like, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. Nice thing to kind of keep an eye out for in the other Hitchcock movies.
Yeah, definitely. But after, I haven't watched too many old movies. I've watched Citizen Kane and Casablanca, which we've done.
Yeah.
I was actually less than impressed with the editing in this movie than I was just after Casablanca just being so good. This one seemed kind of slow and like the pacing just seemed kind of off.
Yeah. I feel like there were certain scenes where they cut, like certain parts of dialogue where they cut back and forth between the two characters, even though there wasn't very much more to say between the different cuts. So like when we cut back to the new person, there's not any more information that this person is giving into the dialogue. Yeah. So I felt like there was some of that was just felt off to me.
Or even like at the end when they're on top of Mount Rushmore, that whole sort of chase fight scene, just a lot of long shots and then cutting to something that you already know is happening. It just doesn't really...
Yeah, that they're climbing down. Oh, and now we have a different shot where they're still climbing down.
Yeah.
Now we have another one where they're just still climbing down. Oh, but they slipped a little bit there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was reading about like what they were trying to do with some of the like what permissions they had to get to film in certain locations, and apparently they weren't able to do a lot of filming like at the site of Mount Rushmore. So they had to make a lot of just replicas, and so I guess that was maybe one of the ways that they worked around that. I was like, well, I think he said that he wanted Cary Grant to like climb into the nose of one of the presidents. And so I was like, of course, clearly they couldn't actually climb into the nose. So like trying to figure out, okay, how do we want to develop that Mount Rushmore scene with the limitations that they had. But yeah, again, I'm not really much of an editor, so I don't know what they could have done better, but I feel like there definitely could have been some things they could have done better with that.
So jumping back to the beginning of the movie, it starts off with this conversation between Cary Grant's character and his
Thornhill.
Yeah, Thornhill and his
secretary
or assistant or whoever.
Yeah. And it seemed interesting to me that she's just kind of just writing down everything that he's saying, and then he's just kind of stream of consciousness saying anything that kind of pops into, like, we got to take care of this, we got to take care of that. And she's just kind of like going along with it. And then when they start heading outside, she's like, but I don't have a coat. I can't go outside. But then, of course, he's like, well, we're going on anyway. We're going.
Yeah.
He's like, I guess, kind of puts him into this position where, like, he's this go-getter. He knows, I've got to go meet these people, so you're just going to come with me as I take this taxi cab over to meet these people, and then you're just going to go right on back to the office. So it just seemed kind of interesting to me that he's just kind of like dragging her along and then shipping her on back.
Yeah, with the conversation there, it felt like we didn't really learn a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, none of it really comes back very much. It's all just very much information that we don't need to know, I feel.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of conversations in this movie do that, where they could have been written better, more...
The dialogue could have been condensed, I guess.
Definitely.
Yeah. Where I felt like some of the stuff that he was trying to explain to the secretary, like getting the box of chocolates and we got to go and call mother. Like, the calling the mother, that makes sense because that comes back.
Yeah.
But then, like, the box of chocolates was that, like, okay, so he's like trying to reconcile with either like one of the ex-wives that gets brought up later on, or like this is a new person that he's interested in. It just seemed like, okay, yeah, I don't know. We're not sure who he's really referring to at that point in the movie.
He's like, the only thing that I can think of that kind of really comes back later is just, he says like he's an ad person in that business, like lying is like, there's no such thing as a lie. It's just
that's true. The expedited, what did he call it? Expedited something or other.
I forget exactly what he said, but it kind of just throughout the movie he's able to become these other people,
right?
Just by talking fast and telling people who he is.
Yeah, especially when we get introduced to the villain Van Damme, where Van Damme's like, you're making this whole room into a theater.
Yeah.
He's like, you're just saying whatever you want to say in order to portray this character that you're trying to personify. But in that context, he was telling the truth. He was like, I am just Thornhill. So yeah, I guess there's a lot of this where he kind of in the need to be Kaplan, he'll say, oh yeah, I'm Kaplan, in order to go and meet with the United Nations people or to get into the hotel. He pretends to be Kaplan, but then we'll switch characters. I think even when he meets Eve Kendall, he comes up with a completely different name and a completely different line of work that he's in. And then Kendall's just like, no, you're not. That's not you. That's not you. So yeah, this idea of like lying, misleading to portray and like create this image, definitely something that I guess Thornhill kind of comes naturally to him.
Yeah. I don't really feel like I have anything to say until the drunk driving scene. Anything there?
Some of the things that like we saw, like even in the opening credits, we kind of get this this opening of the music of like, here are some of the different themes that we're kind of be seeing in some of the different scenes throughout the movie. And one of the first little points after that I picked up on with the music was when Thornhill has been grabbed by the two henchmen and they're driving on up to the house to meet with Van Damme, and we just get this suspense music where the instrumentation is just slowly creeping down in pitch, and so it's like just like something's going to happen, but we don't know what, and it's just this building of the suspense that I thought was done really well, of mixing that uncertainty in Thornhill's dialogue, where he's not getting any answers from the henchmen. They're just staring blankly forward, and the music is just going down, furthering that feeling of suspense and uncertainty.
After this scene where he gets taken to the Townsend mansion, and they send him off, trying to push him off a cliff, drive off
kill
a cliff.
Him off.
I think there's some good editing and very good just with him being drunk and driving down this road. You get there's this vignette around the shot, so the edges are darkened and you can see in the middle. You get that blurred vision kind of thing. And just it cuts back between him kind of falling asleep in the road, and it does this cross cut where like you see one road and then it cross cuts to another road, so it kind of looks like
it's like you get this passage of time of where he's like kind of like losing it for a second and then coming back, and he's like, okay, there's the road again. And it was just this nice look of from his point of view and seeing what he's seeing as he's driving down the road, and then also coming back to where we're actually seeing his face as he's trying to like stay awake and stay aware of how he's driving around. I thought that was really well done, being able to see kind of like both ends of, we see the vehicle in front that he's trying to swerve past, and then when it cuts back to his face and we're seeing behind him, we can see the cars in the background and stuff like that. That kind of consistency, that is kind of nice with like those older movies. That's how they handled a lot of those driving scenes, where they would have those images in the front and back that you would be able to see.
Yeah, also with the old this old style of kind of coming up with ways to kind of cheat the visuals. There were a couple times here earlier in the movie where they shot something slowly and then sped it up to make it seem more natural, I guess. But the one is when Thornhill. I get their names mixed up. They both start with T's. Thornhill, when Thornhill first gets noticed, or when they first think that he's Kaplan, it does this sort of pan over to them, and it's the pan's just sped up. Through.
I noticed that as well in the second watch through that we did. That we had it's like staring at the people that Thornhill was meeting with, and then once Thornhill, acknowledges the page, the worker there at the hotel, it quickly pans over, but it is like it feels like you get that feeling of that sped up kind of that kind of feeling. So it was like, okay, so
I think that's just a way for Hitchcock to deal with the technical limitations of what he was dealing with. But there's also a shot during the drunk driving scene when he passes the cops, because one of the cops is standing outside of the car and he drives past, but this footage is sped up during the time that you see his car driving past, so it looks like he's driving really fast.
I was wondering, I was like, did they like edit in the car driving past, or did they actually drive past that cop car? Like what did they do there? Because it felt off with that, but I wasn't really sure what to pick up from that. So okay, that's interesting. So like definitely some very interesting editing techniques that Hitchcock was using to try and make those connections with the cop car and with looking from where Thornhill is to the henchmen. So I guess like you said, kind of like with those limitations might have been what he was going with. With the car chase scene, during this drunk driving scene, we get another aspect of the music that I picked up on that kind of reappears throughout the movie, and that's the chase music. We get this kind of like punctuated driving kind of music that just kind of ups the intensity of what it is that we're seeing in the visuals. So whether it's him trying to drive down this road while completely intoxicated or gassed, as he puts it, or like when they are at the Mount Rushmore scene, that we get these these musical themes that reappear that kind of just are used again and again to kind of ramp up that intensity and build up that chase scene.
Yeah, it seemed kind of weird to me because the music is very much. There are like just a few tracks that are just repeated throughout the entirety of it. It seemed very different from most movies where they have like an entire score written out for the whole movie.
Yeah.
Where this one, it seemed more like a TV show where they reuse the same music.
Mm-hmm.
It's also something that's done in the movie The Truman Show, but it feels more natural in that because that's supposed to be a TV show of his life.
Yeah.
So it makes sense, but here it felt weird to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I don't know, like, I feel like the music was very well done. But again, like you said, I feel like there was just not a lot of it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was just something that Herman was like, well, I'm only just going to compose like this little suite of music, this little like 20-minute long stretch of music, and then we can just kind of cut and use certain pieces in these different scenes.
Right.
Because it definitely felt like that, especially with that opening credits where they kind of just play, here's all the different like themes that we're going to kind of use throughout the movie, so you're familiar with what's going to be coming up. There was a quote, there's a line that the men that Thornhill was meeting with when he gets to the hotel at the beginning of the movie, when he first walks in to meet them, one of the men says, "Oh, we've got a head start on you," referring to the drinks. And Thornhill responds, "Oh, that won't last long."
Yeah.
And just a couple scenes later, he drinks an entire quart or fifth of bourbon.
This much.
Yeah, that much. Yeah. So it was kind of like, okay, yeah, that definitely didn't last long.
Yeah. And I guess that kind of is supposed to foreshadow that he can hold his liquor, so that it makes more sense that when he drinks that much, he's still able to be conscious enough to get away.
Yeah. He even mentions to his secretary, "Oh, I'm meeting my mother at the theater. I'm going to be 2 martinis in," or whatever it was, whatever drink it was that he says. So yeah, I guess, he's definitely one who can hold his own. So Thornhill's been mistaken for this spy agent, Kaplan, and when he gives no information to Van Damme, they toss him completely trashed into this car and hope that he just falls off this cliff. But of course he survives, and so he ends up in court, and so now is trying to like prove to the judge and prove to the police, no, there's something going on here, and these people tried to kill me. And I thought it was so strange, and I don't know if this is something that this was the way police investigation worked in the 50s or what, but they're like, okay, well, let's send the detectives to go and investigate that. And so the detectives go to the house, the Townsend house, with Mr. Thornhill and his lawyer and Mr. Thornhill's mother.
Yeah.
It's just like, this seems so strange. But as they're leaving there, Mrs. Thornhill says, just pay the $2.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, $2? Is that all the fine would be for driving drunk, assaulting police officer, lying to the judge, and all the other things that they were saying that he might have been charged with, or whether it's just
I think even adjusting for inflation, it's only about like $20.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So it's like that makes no sense. The police car crashed into him, and and another car crashed into the police car. That's got to be way more than $20 worth of damage.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I felt like that line just seemed weird. I feel like it'd be a much higher fine. But I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure they did their research before I knew.
Yeah, because I mean, if it's only $2, why is he going to such lengths that he has to go and like investigate this Kaplan fella and go to the
I was assuming that it was bail, but you would still have to go.
I guess
back
so.
To,
yeah. Okay, so if it's bail money, then $2 for bail money, $20. Oh man, I can't do math that quick.
So then Thornhill and his mother go to Kaplan's hotel room, which he gets very easily.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Yeah. That he just kind of like.
He doesn't even ask for it. He just asks about
whether Kaplan's there.
then,
yeah. And, oh yeah, he's room 976 or whatever. Like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go and break in.
Yeah, I find this movie, how it deals with Kaplan not being a real person, weird, because it tells you pretty early on that Kaplan isn't a real person.
Yeah.
But it still kind of continues the charade
The
a little
illusion,
bit.
the charade, yeah.
So I don't know whether that was like something that was changed later that they wanted to do.
I'm not sure. But yeah, I guess, I mean, we also get the idea of like the FBI, the CIA, whoever these people are, just are like, in this one scene when they say that Kaplan was this created agent who's not actually a real person, they come to the conclusion of, well, there's nothing we can do anyway. So I guess from Thornhill's perspective and the police's perspective, there still is this person of, okay, well, who was this Kaplan? Like, why were you going with this fake name?
Yeah.
That they soon just kind of like, well, maybe it was just a fake name from their perspective. But then the villains, Van Damme and what was the other guy's name? Leonard.
Yeah.
Are just like, nope, that's not Thornhill. That's definitely Kaplan, and everyone is in on it that they're thinking that he's this Thornhill person.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they were so dogged.
I just find it weird the way that it's portrayed to the audience. It seems like certain scenes the audience shouldn't know that Kaplan's not real.
Yeah. So then Thornhill thinks, well, let me go to the United Nations. He again tries to elude the henchmen during the elevator scene, where in that elevator scene we also get a little bit of that suspense music coming back, but now it's reversed. Instead of the music going down in pitch, it's going up in pitch as they're going down the elevator. And so I was like, okay, that's kind of this dichotomy, this contrast, which I thought was kind of interesting. But then he again just kind of runs off, jumps into a taxi cab, which he did with his secretary, where he just kind of like cuts in line and just grabs and dashes into this taxi cab and rushes off to the UN. Which another thing that I read about with the UN, similar to with Mount Rushmore, they weren't allowed to do any kind of shooting at the United Nations. So Hitchcock just set up like a hidden camera and filmed Grant going into the United Nations, and then apparently they kind of snuck in and took pictures of the United Nations building and then just remade it on set. So I was like, that's kind of a lot of work, but that's kind of interesting that they went that far to be able to replicate.
That also makes me wonder how they did the shot from above, where it's looking down when he's leaving the UN.
That's true.
Because if that's not shot on site, that seems like a lot of work to go to just recreate the outside. And it's not like a shot that they've used multiple times throughout the movie. It's just that one time.
Just that one time for 3 seconds, 2 or 3 seconds of him just tinily running off, away from the United Nations. But yeah, so we get kind of a silly kind of scene when Thornhill tries to confront Townsend and is a completely different person to who he expected. And then when he tries to question him, Townsend gets a knife in the back, which of course Thornhill instinctively just okay, well, let me just grab this knife and pull it out of your back. Oh no, there's a cameraman here who takes my picture, and now I'm gonna be plastered on every newspaper with a knife in my hand.
Yeah, that seems really weird, but maybe just since this movie is before a lot of TV crime TV shows and stuff, maybe that's just people weren't that aware of,
I guess so,
how to act.
It just seemed very, very comedic to me.
Yeah.
It's just okay, there's just this huge crowd of people swarming around him, and he's still just kind of oh, he has a knife. We can't grab him or anything.
And then he drops the knife when he was running off.
Yeah, he runs off. We're okay, sure. Yeah, he gets away, and then ends up at a train station trying to continue his search for whoever this Kaplan figure is supposed to be. Yeah, and comes across Eve Kendall as he boards onto the 20th century, the train.
20th Century Limited.
Yeah, as he heads west towards, was it Chicago?
Yeah.
Is that where it's going next? Yeah. He meets Eve Kendall when he first gets onto the train, and then as he's trying to dodge the train, I don't know, conductors, engineer, the ticket masters, whatever they're called, he ends up at the dining car and gets seated with Kendall again.
Yeah.
Which, of course, was not coincidence. She paid off $5 to the attendant to seat him at the same table. And I felt like the conversation there started off okay. They, start talking about, who they are. She introduces herself, says, I'm 26 and unmarried, 27 and unmarried.
And that's everything about me.
That's all you need to know.
Yep.
That's my whole story. And then he, like we said, comes up with a false identity, and she just blows that off and says, that's not right.
Yeah.
And shows that I know exactly that you're Mr. Thornhill, this wanted murderer, and I'm okay with that. Which, if I were Thornhill, I'd be like, this is really kind of weird. Like, who is this person that's okay with me apparently being a murderer? Like,
yeah, I don't know if that's just a product of the times of just, I don't know, it just seems very Bond-like.
Yeah, like, very, like, the girl's just gonna be sleeping with the hero, and that's the way it is.
Yeah.
This is the way it goes.
Yeah, even later, like, after he goes through everything in the field,
Yeah.
and he comes back, and she thinks he's dead, like, he seems to trust her to some extent a little bit in that scene there.
Right.
Like, even though she tried to kill him.
She just sent him off to die.
Yeah.
Like, what? And it's like, well, I'm just going to, like, give you my clothes, so even if I do need to, like, run away from here, I have no clothes to get, because I need to have my suit pressed and clean from all of those dust cropping chemicals.
Yeah. Which is probably a good idea.
Yeah, it probably is. But like, even their conversation once in the train, when Kendall reveals that she knows who he is, he's just like, whoops.
Yeah.
Okay. What are we gonna do? And it's just like, I felt like that was where I felt like they're cutting to her. She's giving something to the conversation, to the dialogue. Then it just cuts to him, and he's just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I don't know why he's just kind of like floundering here, because he was doing fine just a minute ago. It just seemed strange to me. But we do get information about his middle name here. Yeah. We get Roger O. Thornhill, which apparently the O doesn't
stand for anything.
So and that's the thing. Does it not stand for anything, or does it stand for nothing? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the age-long question.
Yeah, it just seems weird that like it doesn't stand for anything, but it kind of becomes important with the matchbook later. It's just...
Yeah. So I guess, I mean, maybe that was the point, is they wanted Rut to stand out in our minds of, okay, yeah, this is something that he can utilize later on.
Yeah, but even if they just wanted to stand out, they could have made it mean anything.
Oliver.
But
what's another word that starts with O? Ostrich. Ambulance. That's not spelled right. Ambulance spelled with an O.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's more like a name anyway.
Yeah. Just take a name. Just take any noun, and then just like change it slightly, and that's how you get a name.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Like toothpick becomes Toothrick.
Yeah.
I could see that. That's Swedish, right?
Yeah.
Toothrick. Yeah, of course. That's not at all insensitive. Okay, moving on.
During this train sequence, there's an interesting shot that they keep cutting back to, where it kind of shows the outside of the train, or a lot of times it'll pan out to show the outside of the train, and pan back in. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it feels kind of out of place, like there's not really a reason to do it, but I still kind of like the shot there.
Yeah, just kind of like that transition. That, like, I think there was one I saw that was in between those scenes, the dining car scene, when he's then back at her room
Yeah.
when it cuts out of the train and then cuts back in, and she's reading the book, and then the police go in to try and ask her about Thornhill.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, kind of nice. Even like a simple transition of just cutting outside of the train and seeing some of the scenery, and then cutting back in to get back into the train.
It's just like that one works where it's kind of, it cuts time out, but sometimes it seemed like it was doing it and it wasn't really cutting time out. It was just kind of, so it just seemed kind of out of place
between scenes. Yeah.
Then after they get off the train, Thornhill goes to this field to meet Kaplan.
Yeah. Kendall's like, I just spoke with Kaplan, and he said he'll meet you at this empty field 2 hours away from here by bus. It's like, okay, I'll go meet him.
Yep.
But it leads to like a very, very cool scene.
This is my favorite scene in the movie here.
Yeah. One of the things that I found most interesting about the scene was, I've been talking about the music and how they have like this chase music and this suspense music, but throughout this scene, there's nothing.
Yeah.
And even the dialogue, there's very, very limited dialogue.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
And also, like, it's parts of it are very slow, but it's like very deliberately slow. Like when he first gets there and you see the cars passing by, and he hears the plane off in the distance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you just see it fly by, and a little bit of dust, a little bit of crop smoke, whatever comes out.
Which the first time I watched it, I was kind of thinking like, we already know that Kaplan isn't going to show up, but it still kind of gives this like, well, then what is going to happen?
Right, exactly.
To it?
Yeah, because I knew about this scene. I knew what was going to be coming. I knew about the plane and everything, but I didn't know what happened prior to that. And so like I see, okay, the first car goes past, the second car goes past, and then the third car, I was like, okay, it's got to be the third car.
Yeah. Rule of threes, it has to be the third one.
It has to be the third car. And so I'm like, okay. And then we end up with just this guy who drives out of like behind this corn stalks and is like, well, I'm getting on the bus, heading into town. I'm like, oh, who is that?
Yeah, I like the conversation that they have there. It just, like he just starts talking about the plane too, and it kind of alludes to the fact that the plane's not really
supposed to be there. Kind of thing. Yeah, that even though we saw it, it was flying over the crops, but then it was like, well, there actually aren't crops there? What's going on? Okay, so now something kind of crazy is going on. So, yeah, definitely started building up the suspense. Even with that, without the suspense music, we were like, okay, now we just know that's not right. So something's not going on here. And even before that, we did get the note from Kendall when she was on the train. She sent the note to Kendall. Kendall sent the note to Van Damme saying, what should I do with him in the morning? So we already know Kendall's working for him. Kendall's with him.
And you see it when she's talking on the phone. You see like a few stalls down.
Yes.
So.
We see Lawrence? Leonard. I don't want to call him Lawrence. Yeah. Leonard. We see Leonard. So we're getting, there's definitely some backdoor sneaking around of what Kendall's doing. Yeah. Trying to throw off Mr. Thornhill. And it was during some of those conversations when she was on the train trying to like work with him that I realized, I bet she's the one who is like the double agent working with the CIA, FBI.
Yeah.
Because they mentioned that they had someone working under the nose. And so the whole time I was thinking, oh man, she's going to be like this, like Natasha Romanoff. We've been watching Avengers and she's going to be like this super spy agent. And then I was like expecting her to do something and then she just doesn't really do any like spy stuff. I'm like, okay, whatever.
But going back to that scene in the field,
yes.
Want to get to the action here of the plane coming in. And it has a few, I guess maybe you'd call them stunts back then. Wouldn't go that far now, but with the plane coming towards the camera.
Right.
Then when the truck shows up later and he like almost gets run over and lays down on the ground.
Yeah. And then the plane which had been flying fine.
Yeah.
Like they have the advantage of being able to see what's around them. They don't see this truck coming in, and so all of a sudden they just wobble on down and just crash into this truck.
Yeah.
Which the people in the truck jump out and run away saying it's going to explode, and then these other people just show up and like, oh, let's go stand next to this burning fuel tanker or what.
They stand back for a little bit and they start just moving closer.
Oh man, people are dumb.
Which of course then Thornhill decides to steal the truck that has a refrigerator in the back, not the car.
Yeah, of course the one with the refrigerator that is going to stand out like crazy. And of course once he arrives back in Chicago, he has to be like, well, I'm giving up this truck. I can't use it anymore.
Yeah.
So he loses.
And you get that shot of it parked on the side of the road, and the cops are giving it a ticket.
Yeah, investigating it, trying to figure out, okay, what's going on here. I wondered why Thornhill didn't just, after dying from that plane, why he didn't just like be okay, I'm good now.
Yeah.
As far as Van Damme and everyone else is concerned, maybe he died at the same time that plane crash happened. Maybe they got him. Why did he have to go back and, stir up the beehive again?
Well, he still had that trial that he kind of ran out on, so he definitely would have been, and people still thought he murdered
Townsend.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I would have expected nowadays, I don't know when the witness protection program was started, but I would have thought maybe the government would have stepped in and just been like, okay, now that we got what we wanted from Van Damme, now we can step in and like, okay, call off the trial.
But I guess they didn't know that he had died at that point. Because he didn't even know that, what's the fake name?
Oh my goodness.
Kaplan. Because he didn't even know that Kaplan was an FBI
That's true.
plan. So he didn't.
That's true. Yeah. Because he had to go back to Kendall and say like, you said you spoke with Kaplan, but Kaplan checked out.
Yeah.
So clearly our stories aren't matching up. And so now he's trying to figure out, okay, what is going on with what Kendall's doing here. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it goes to another really good scene at the auction house.
Yeah, another one that's just like, this is just so crazy, so absurd, but so funny. The way he gets out of the claws of the villains,
which he had been doing. He had been doing similar things before, like when he was in the elevator going down, and he let the women out first so he could run away.
Just run away. Yeah. So like he's clearly very quick on his feet to figure out, okay, what do I need to do here? But he just takes it to the absurd levels of course we have to, these people are trying to kill me. They had a gun last time pointed at me, but they're going to recognize that, oh yeah, women have to step off the elevator first. So they'll observe that and let me now go. And then like the whole thing with the auction scene of just like, okay, why didn't they just grab him when he started making a scene? He starts making a scene, hoping the police get called and they protect him from the bad guys. Why didn't the bad guys just like go, oh, sorry, our friend's drunk or something, and just grab him and steal him away? Like I feel like the villains here, the henchmen, were just like, I'm just gonna stand here and just wait to see what happens.
Yeah,
but I don't know. It's weird.
I like how the auctioneer handles the situation because he starts bidding under people, like less money than is the current bid.
Yeah.
But then when he starts bidding over people, the auctioneer just ignores him.
Yeah. Yeah. And then gets to the whole point where it's like $8. Like, wait, no, we were at like thousands. No. No, like $8. That's $6. Like, what is happening here? Oh man, it was good. It was so wonderful. Oh man, love it.
So then Thornhill gets picked up by the FBI agent, the professor.
The professor, such an interesting title, and like that's even what the other agents or other people working with him there at the agency called him. And so when Thornhill meets him, he's like, I didn't catch your name. He's like, I'm pretty sure I didn't throw it.
Yeah.
And I was like, Okay, we're gonna do this thing. We're just gonna call him the professor. That's fine. Okay, but this was a scene that like I didn't even realize really that this was a scene that I was aware of. This whole thing, because I think there was something else with Casablanca where they did something similar with the planes, where the propellers spin and we're getting like this information about where the characters know something that where the characters don't know something that the viewer, the audience knows.
Yeah.
And so the characters get brought up to speed without boring the audience by just having the propellers spin.
And you can't hear what they're saying.
Yeah. And it's just like you have that noise, and so like, okay, now they're all caught up. And so that was something that I'd heard that phrase before and was wondering like, okay, I feel like I know what this is referring to. I know what this is from. But like I'd never actually seen the movie. And so this was where I kind of got the connection of, okay, so that makes sense of the propeller spin, and we're now everyone's on the same page.
Yeah. And then they all go to South Dakota.
And they are looking at Mount Rushmore. And this is, I guess, their plan to try and, from Thornhill's perspective, they're trying to now kill off Kaplan and rescue Kendall at the same time by having him killed off by Kendall and her fake gun, which I thought that was really well done of that Van Damme and Leonard and Kendall arrive and are speaking with Thornhill, and Kendall walks off to like this bar area where there's like food or whatever, and you see the professor walk up and like stand right next to her. And so like they sneakily kind of like pass off the fake gun, and so then that's what allows for Kendall to kill off Kaplan, aka Thornhill, aka Kaplan, and and seemingly now she's able to break away from Van Damme.
Yeah.
But I guess that was only the way that Thornhill thought it was going to go. And Kendall is still going to be utilized by the government to still try and get information on Van Damme and feed it back to the agents. Which this was another point where I thought, okay, I guess a product of the time where, you know, it's just this girl who, you know, they're going to be used, and the hero, the male hero, has to go and rescue them.
Yeah.
And originally I was thinking, okay, this seems so cliche. Why does Thornhill have to go and rescue her? There's no reason to go and rescue her.
Yeah. Until
we actually get to the house where Van Damme and Leonard and Kendall are staying.
Yeah, but I want to go back to this plan, because I kind of want to know what the FBI offered him, because even if he does die there, he can't really go back to his old life, because then because he would have to get he was charged with like murder and stuff. So if
all these people,
if they got him off those charges, it seems like that would be kind of a big story that then Van Damme would find out about, and then he would still suspect Kendall. So it seems like they would have to do some sort of like witness protection or something.
Yeah, do something strange there. Yeah, and I guess they never really did resolve that.
No,
because the movie even ends prior to like Thornhill like getting back to like a normal life. Right? He's like on the train again.
But with the microfilm, I think that was enough for them to finally get Van Damme and put him away. I don't think there was really a threat to Thornhill anymore.
Right. Yeah. But it's like, what was the plan with Thornhill? Because they did have him just like, we're gonna hole you up in this little hospital or whatever for a few days until we figure out, you know, what's gonna happen next. So, yeah, it's kind of like when, I guess, the professor spoke with the police that had brought Thornhill out of the auction house, it seemed as if there was some kind of communication of, I'm going to take this person. We're going to go from there. So I guess there must have been some kind of discussion of, okay, I'm taking this fugitive somewhere else, and we're gonna take care of it, and you guys can drop this or what. But I don't know. It just it definitely does seem.
But it still seemed like he was treating him as a prisoner to the cops, though. I think so.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he was cleared of the charges,
right? Because they locked him up in the room. They didn't want him to leave.
Yeah.
So whether that was because of those charges and they wanted to keep him away from the police, or because they just wanted him to not go back and go after Kendall and Van Damme. Yeah.
But he gets out of this hospital by going across a ledge and into this other room.
Yeah.
Where this one woman has like one line in this movie, which seems kind of out of place.
Yeah, and it's just like, stop. And then she puts on her glasses and is like, oh, stop.
Yeah.
Like, oh, come on. This is so cheesy.
Yeah. But keep wanting to say Townsend.
Townsend. We're going to bring him back.
Thornhill.
Yeah.
Goes to Van Damme's mansion.
Mm-hmm.
And I like this, him sneaking around and hearing the different conversations here.
Yeah, it was definitely very interesting because I wasn't sure what Leonard was going to do.
Yeah.
Because he pulls the gun, and you first see the gun, and he's hiding it from Van Damme. And he's, going through this conversation of, we can't trust Kendall, there's all this stuff going on. And Van Damme's like, no, I think you're the one who's losing it. And then he shoots him. I'm just like, oh, man, things are getting crazy.
Yeah.
And then it's just the fake gun.
Yeah.
So, of course, trying to, again, catch us off guard with that fake gun. But it kind of played that role really well. I, as the audience, thought, okay, Leonard is really kind of going crazy and is going to steal this microfilm, and he's going to use it for his own nefarious purposes. Because we, for the most part, just see him as this like henchman to Van Damme. And we don't really get much of, okay, what is his role in whatever this villainous scheme is. So trying to see, okay, well, maybe if he takes over, what is he going to be doing from there? So expecting a lot from that. I guess once we get into Thornhill actually getting into the house, he has to try and find a way to communicate with Kendall now that Van Damme and Leonard know, oh, we're going to just have to kill off Kendall because she had this fake gun. Clearly, the ruse is busted.
Yeah.
And so now that's then the motivation that Thornhill has to like go, okay, now I do got to rescue her because she's unaware that they know about the plan. So I thought it was pretty unique, pretty interesting way to try and get her attention.
Yeah.
Bringing back that matchbook.
Yeah, I even found it interesting, like when he throws it, like she doesn't notice it.
Yeah.
And then the other guy picks it up.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's like he picks it up and then just throws it on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was just like, okay, finally she's going to be able to pick this up and go and like talk to him and they'll get out of there. But then like for whatever reason she doesn't. Like they go back and they talk, and then she goes right back to like going back down to Van Damme and Leonard.
Yeah.
To get onto the plane. I don't know. I thought it was really interesting how Thornhill got caught trying to sneak out of the house.
Yeah.
Where, I don't know, like the maid or whoever it was supposed to be, like, I think they even mentioned, like, the wife, like, whether it was supposed to be Van Damme's wife.
Yeah. I was confused about that because there was another woman when he first got kidnapped.
Yeah.
And, like, she was acting as his wife, but then it was just the maid that continued.
Yeah.
So it was, I don't know.
I wasn't sure. But her just, like, seeing him in the reflection of the television.
Yeah.
Like, would it really be that focus that you'd be able to see someone in the television like that from that angle? I don't know, but it made for a interesting kind of sequence where he gets once again held up from being able to rescue. There's another obstacle keeping him from rescuing Kendall.
Yeah. till he realizes that it's the fake gun.
Again, third time they have that fake gun, and we even hear it going off.
Yeah.
That he just runs off away from there. And when he gets to the car to try and like grab Kendall and drive off and get away from there, you made the comment about like they stop and they try and like break apart like the gate and like try and get out.
Gate. It's not their car. They can just go
bust through it and get out of there. I'm like, oh my goodness, yeah. Of course, now we have to actually like continue running. And
just walk a few hundred feet and get on top of Mount Rushmore somehow.
Yeah. It's like, what do you like? Were they on top of Mount Rushmore the whole time?
Yeah, it's like his house is on the back side of Mount Rushmore.
Did Thornhill, after he got out of the hospital, take the taxi and like tell the taxi cab, "Oh, I need to go, to the top of Mount Rushmore where the evil villain's house is." And the taxi cab driver's like, "Oh, I know exactly where that's at." And I'm like, what? What? It is so silly. Oh man, but I loved it. It was so good. And so, of course, the only place they can go is start climbing down the face of the mountain, literally the face of Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
And so it's again, we get the kind of like climactic fanfare when they come across and they see that they're standing on top of Mount Rushmore, and then we get the chase music again that goes on there.
Yeah, this sequence very much seemed driven by the music. Like the visuals were very slow, but the music was very just tense. So
yeah, I guess there's only so much you can do when you're climbing down this sheer cliff face. Like you can't really go quickly. It does have to go slowly, and so it just feels, all right, this is going on. It's going on.
But I do like at the end when he's holding on to Kendall and holding on to the ledge, and he asks Leonard to help. Yeah. And for a second, like you don't know if he's actually going to help pull them up or not.
Yeah, like I see Thornhill look over at Leonard and just like, help. I was like, of course he's not going to help you. He's going to kill you.
Yeah.
They're chasing you. They're trying to kill you off. Like, this is absurd. Like, he's not going to help you. And then I'm like, is he seriously going to help him? Yeah. He's walking toward, oh my gosh. And then I was like, okay, good. He's just going to step on his hand and not actually help. And so the whole time during this, like, climbing scene, I'm just waiting and waiting for the people to fall. Like, okay, how are they going to handle these people falling? And so you had the one guy who I can't even remember his name.
Yeah.
I don't remember if they gave his name, but I remember looking at the cast and like he had like a really strange name, like Vibranium or Lithuanian. Like it was like this really interesting name. Yeah. And I was like, that's different from Thornhill and Leonard.
Yeah.
So it was just interesting. I can't remember what it was though. But he falls, and it's just this like static frame of him, like his character just like falling and like getting smaller, and like you didn't really see any like flailing or anything. And then it was very similar with Leonard falling, that he just kind of gets shot and then falls down. And then we get that final quip from Van Damme, again bringing back the fake gun, saying not very sporting, using real bullets.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, whatever, you're captured, you're done for.
And then it ends on this very strange cut where he's pulling
Kendall.
Yeah, Kendall. Yeah. Kendall up onto the ledge, and it just turns into him pulling her up onto the bed on the train.
On the train. Yeah.
Then it just ends.
And then it just cuts to the train entering the tunnel.
Yeah.
The end. End of story. Movie over. Just like, okay, there we go. Very, very interesting. But yeah, I would say it was overall, it held up from more or less what I was expecting from a Hitchcock movie. There were definitely things that I felt were not great, and like again, chalk that up to that's the way they treated women back in the 1950s, I guess. I mean, James Bond did the same thing with his Bond girls a lot of times, and so it's like, okay,
like The thing though is with Casablanca, it seemed a lot more like both in
That's
its
true.
treatment of Ilsa and its editing they both seemed better than this movie.
That's true.
Which when Casablanca came out like more than 10 years before this, like 15 years I think before this movie.
Something like quite a bit more. Yeah. So it's I guess we can put the blame on the just being that time, but I guess we can't wholly still allow for that.
Yeah.
Because other movies did better than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a good point.
And that will do it for this video. We'd like to thank Mill Eastup for creating our theme.
And join us in the comment section below to go over any other questions and add to the discussion on the movie.
And subscribe so you don't miss our next video where we are going to be discussing the movie Paddington.
This has been FoxTales Movie Club. Thanks for watching. I'm Tony.
And I'm Fox, and we will see you in the next video.